What's the filling of the pie? Tiffany, a short but very fat old woman, named Maria, asked the young woman named Tiffany. There are several kinds of pie today, with eggs and onions, with mushrooms, with liver and potatoes, with cabbage, and with cherries, Tiffany replied calmly, adjusting her clean apron. She, like other women in the village, often sold her pastries outside the local store, which was located near the highway. The authorities planned to build a highway here, and they even considered destroying the village. But to the great joy of the locals, this place had been declared a protected conservation area, and everything had been left as it was. The houses in the village, including Tiffany's house, were surrounded by the woods, and all drivers, including truck drivers, traveled that part of the way along the street, which was the widest in the village. But the drivers didn't mind this inconvenience at all and were in a hurry to get to the village as soon as possible, for they could buy fresh vegetables, fruits, and berries, as well as honey, milk, sour cream, and delicious homemade pastries. Tiffany decided to keep up with her neighbors, and because she was good at cooking, making pies, cookies, and buns, she sold her homemade goodies to the hungry drivers and their passengers. Usually, everything was sold out in no time, but today she had to stay there for almost 2 hours before the first customer showed up. Tiffany sold him some fresh pastries, smiled, and wished him bon appetit, put the money in a carton, and only then noticed that she was almost alone by the roadside. Even Maria and her friend Valerie, who were selling dairy products, were already packing up to go home. They sold everything. What about you, dear? Valerie turned to Tiffany. Are you going to spend the night here? No, of course not, the young woman replied. I'm going to stay a little longer. Maybe I can sell some more. Valerie, please prepare 3 liters of milk for me. I'll come to you later and pick it up. But I can give you the money now, okay? She nodded in reply. I'll pour it into a bottle and leave it by the gate. The 2 elderly women walked past Tiffany, talking quietly, but she could hear their words anyway. Probably it was very hard for her in the city, so she came back to the village. Yes, moreover, she came back with a baby. There's nothing to be surprised about. City boys are cunning, they use such naive fools. And when they find out about the pregnancy, they immediately kick them out. Then the girls immediately come back to their parents and apologize to them. That's right, and this young fool is no exception, came back home and decided that her mother should take care of her baby. I'm happy that my granddaughter, Alice, is not like that, Valerie said. She grew up smart, graduated, got a good job in the city. I remember when she and Tiffany were good friends. They moved to the city together. Now Tiffany's at home, and my dear Alice is still living in the city, making a lot of money. About to get married, not like Tiffany. Tiffany has only one talent, to have affairs with men. The distance muffled the old woman's disgusting words. Tiffany realized what Valerie was saying and bit her lip. She didn't care what they thought of her. The gossip would never end, these old ladies were bored and needed to discuss someone. Tiffany thought of her mom, Anna. It was good that she was not like that and supported her daughter when she came back from the city where she had lived for several years with a baby in her arms. That's okay, darling, she mumbled, looking at the baby's tiny face. You and I are young and healthy. Both of us can work. We can raise a baby without anyone else's help. He'll be a handsome and clever boy. Oh, Mommy, Tiffany snuggled against her mother's shoulder. I have so much to tell you. I'll put Johnny to bed and come back to you, okay, sweetheart. And, aside, meanwhile, I'll make dinner for you and me. Then both women were sitting in the kitchen, talking, thinking about how they would live their lives. They even cried a little, But tears can't solve the problem, so they just moved on with their lives and raising the baby. The locals gossiped about her and looked at her judgmentally, but she pretended as if she didn't notice this evil gossip. And no one knew, not even her dear mother, how often she couldn't sleep at night thinking about her unfortunate life. The young woman's sad thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of a passenger bus heading into the city. The driver knew Tiffany well and stopped to buy some cookies from her, and the passengers immediately bought everything else from her. "Thank you, Tiffany," he thanked her. "If I wasn't married, I'd marry you just to eat these cookies every day. Come back tomorrow. I'll make your favorite plum pie." Tiffany waved her hand at him and laughed, satisfied that she had instantly sold everything she had. She started to pack up to go home when suddenly she saw a man walking out of the bushes onto the road. He had no clothes on and was wobbling so much that he could fall at any moment. Tiffany turned around to look for help, but the street was empty. The village seemed almost extinct in the fading dusk. The man was getting closer. Tiffany shrieked in horror, grabbed her bags, and ran away. Stories of crazy maniacs who terrified different cities came to mind. Her house was very close, but suddenly she heard a begging cry for help, and she stopped. Tiffany turned around and saw that the man, having lost his last strength, had fallen helplessly to the ground, face down. Then, mentally cursing herself for her carelessness, she hurried toward him and squatted down beside him. "What happened to you?" she asked and tried to turn him over. She succeeded and immediately cried out loudly, "What is that?" The man didn't answer anything. He didn't seem to understand anything at all. Tiffany barely managed to help him get up. Fortunately, a man came out of the alley, and Tiffany recognized Frank, the local alcoholic. "Frank, please help," she shouted to him. When he ran up, she begged, "Help me get him home. See, he's severely injured. Can't we just call an ambulance and the police and let him stay here the whole time?" "But you can't take a stranger home." "I mean, there's your mother and your baby," Frank said. "Frank, this is my ex-father-in-law, Ryan." Tiffany stomped her foot impatiently. "Are you going to help or not? Also, get some clothes, he shouldn't be naked." "Okay," Frank agreed. "But you owe me a bottle of alcohol." Passing drivers saw the strange people dragging along the roadside toward the houses, but no one stopped to help or even asked what was going on. They all had other things to do, and only Tiffany, who was sympathetic to other people's misfortune, couldn't leave this man in trouble, even though he'd caused her a lot of pain not so long ago. Together with Frank, she brought Ryan home and put him on the bed under the shrieks of her frightened mother. Then she gave Frank some money for alcohol because she didn't keep any at home and hurried to the phone to call an ambulance. Frank quickly brought clothes and helped Tiffany dress up her former father-in-law. "These are my personal belongings," Frank said, expecting to be rewarded. However, he knew Tiffany would reward him nicely, for she had never been greedy. She was always friendly and kind to everyone. Lying on the pillow, Ryan turned his head, not understanding where he was. Suddenly, his gaze focused on a cute little boy looking at him intently. "Hi," Ryan said in a hoarse voice. The child was frightened by the unfamiliar voice, and his mother immediately appeared beside him. "It's okay, dear. Don't cry," Tiffany reassured him. Ryan only now recognized her. "What's wrong with me, and what are you doing here?" "I have no idea what happened to you, and I'm here because this is my home," Tiffany grinned. "So now you're the one who's my guest. Don't look at me like that. I'm not going to kick you out like you kicked me out not so long ago. The paramedics will be here in a moment, I guess. They will take you to the hospital." "To the hospital?" Ryan repeated and closed his eyes. It was very hard for him to speak, the memories flashed through his aching head. He remembered the day when he and his wife, Angela, celebrated at the restaurant their first $1 million earned, and then they traveled to the ocean with their little son, Connor. After that, they traveled abroad many times, but that first family trip stayed in his heart forever. Back then, Ryan still had free time for his wife and son, and then that time began to fly by too quickly. Ryan was fully immersed in his growing business, Angela was busy with her own activities, and their whole life was scheduled for many years ahead. The couple were sure that their son would marry the daughter of Ryan's partner, Monique. The beautiful, intelligent girl was a perfect match for Connor. But for some reason, he decided to do everything in his own way, and one day, he took Tiffany home and introduced her as his wife. Ryan and Angela froze in place, staring at the country girl with the thick braid and the cheap bag in her hands, while she smiled at them sincerely, not realizing that no one wanted her in the house. "Mom, Dad, are you going to keep us on the doorstep like this?" Connor grinned. "Meet Tiffany, my wife." Connor's grin. "What have you done, Connor?" Ryan asked, holding Angela's hand, who staggered hearing this news. "Nothing, just married the girl I love, not the one you chose for me." "Nothing, just married the girl I love, not the one you chose for me. Tiffany and I met a few months ago, and she is the most wonderful girl in the world. Today she and I officially became husband and wife. How's that? So you don't even bother to ask for our advice or even to inform us? What about Monique?" Angela sobbed. "Well, what's the big deal, Mom?" Connor answered instead of Tiffany. "I broke up with another girlfriend and got drunk, then I got kicked out of this cafe, and Tiffany picked me up. She thought I was homeless, can you believe it? She took me to her apartment, put me to bed." "Oh my God," Angela was shocked. "She takes homeless people home, and you married her? Mom, aren't you listening to me?" "Tiffany was kind to me, she helped me," Connor exclaimed. "She's kind, and I married her because I knew you would talk me out of it and insist on marrying Monique. But I don't love her, she's stupid. But Tiffany is definitely smart." Angela couldn't cope with her nervousness. "Why did you do this to us, Connor?" "Okay, son," Ryan stood up, placing both hands on the table. "Tomorrow, I will handle your divorce. You can get divorced in one day, Connor, you will return to your normal life. And you, sweet girl, you will return to your very beautiful small village. We'll consider your marriage an ordinary misunderstanding and quickly forget about it." "Dad, what on earth are you talking about?" Connor stood up and looked his father in the eye. "Nothing, son," Ryan said. "Let her get out of here. And you also have to choose between us, your family, and this sneaky, brazen girl." "I choose her," Connor shouted, and taking Tiffany by the hand, ran out of the house. A year and a half passed, but Ryan and Angela never accepted Tiffany as a family member, and although Connor visited them often, they asked him never to come to their house with Tiffany. They often tried to turn him against his wife, and gradually Connor began to think the same way, that Tiffany was not the girl of his dreams. She is calm, shy, and modest, he could say she was coy, but she didn't understand the social life he was used to. She didn't like nightclubs, restaurants, and other entertainment, just watching a movie at home or a casual stroll through the city was enough for her. Tiffany liked museums and theaters, but Connor couldn't stand it all. He liked loud music and he liked to have fun. The homemade food that had initially delighted him now seemed disgusting. "I'm sick of your soups, pies, and meatballs. Why don't we order pizza? Have you forgotten that you don't live in the village? Stop cooking this disgusting crap," Connor yelled. disgusting," Tiffany said indignantly. "Connor, I don't understand what's going on. How can you say that? I'm great at cooking, and I'm trying to please you. You really don't understand anything." Connor yelled, "I'm so sick of you." Tiffany wasn't used to being treated this way, so she raised her hand sharply and slapped her husband in the face. "That's what I was talking about," he recoiled, red-faced, turning around. He left the apartment, slamming the door loudly. Tiffany couldn't take it anymore and cried, then wrapped her arms around her belly. She never got the chance to tell her husband that she was expecting a baby. Several days passed, Connor never came back home, but the landlady showed up and demanded payment. "Wait a minute, Mrs. Cooper," Tiffany rushed, opened her purse, and pulled out all the money she had, holding it out to the woman. But the woman took the money, counted it, and only wrinkled her nose grudgingly. "But this is only for utilities and only for 1 month. You haven't paid for 3 months." "What do you mean, 3? Tiffany wondered. "That's exactly what I mean. You haven't paid for the apartment in 3 months. Shameless. Why do you think I came here? Your husband Connor has been promising to pay the rent for 4 months now. You're no better than him. There must be some kind of mistake here. It can't be. I don't want to hear anything. It's time to pay, give me the money." I don't have it. "I gave you all the money I had," Tiffany said, embarrassed. "Then get out of here, pack your bags. You have a couple of hours, is that clear?" Mrs. Cooper yelled. Tiffany begged her to wait, saying she'd try to find the money. "I'll figure something out," Tiffany assured her. And when Mrs. Cooper left, the girl quickly ran outside. Tiffany got to Ryan and Angela's house with difficulty. It was raining outside. They were both home and opened the door right away but wouldn't let her into the house. "Is Connor here?" Tiffany asked. "He's your husband," Angela replied sarcastically. "How do we know where he is?" "It's time to pay the rent," Tiffany mumbled. "I gave him my entire salary every month, he promised to pay, and now it turns out he hasn't." "Honey, don't involve us in your problems," Ryan told her as he closed the door. "And don't come here again." "But I need to talk to Connor," Tiffany held the door open, not allowing them to close it. "I'm expecting a baby," she continued, but they had already closed the door in front of her. She didn't even know if Connor's parents had heard what she said or not. The unhappy girl had no choice but to go back to the apartment. She had no idea what to say to the landlady when she came. It turned out that Mrs. Cooper had already thrown Tiffany's belongings out the door and didn't want to listen to her. Tiffany went to the bus stop and stayed there all night, shivering and trying to save herself from the piercing wind and cold. In the morning, passers-by noticed a girl lying on the bench and called an ambulance. Now the ambulance was coming for Ryan. Tiffany sat beside him, wiping the abrasions and wounds on his face with a wet towel. "Who hurt you so badly?" she asked. "Business. It happens," Ryan said. "Competitors did their best. They dragged me into a car, drove me out into the woods, beat me up, forced me to take off all my clothes. They thought I'd freeze to death, but I survived. You'll be fine," Tiffany promised him. Soon, the paramedics arrived and took Ryan to the hospital. Tiffany fed Johnny and put him to bed, and then spent a long time sitting with his mother, talking about what had happened. 3 weeks went by. One morning, new visitors arrived at Tiffany's house, Ryan and Connor. "We came to thank you for everything," Ryan smiled, "and we have one more thing to say." "Come back home, Tiffany," Ryan mumbled. "I'm home," Tiffany answered them. Where am I supposed to come back to? Connor asked. We are already divorced, you're nothing to me. I'm sorry, Ryan. I have no resentment toward you, and I'm glad you're healthy again. Wait, but you have a baby, Ryan began. Little Johnny, my grandson, Tiffany grinned sadly. My baby is gone, my baby died the day you kicked me out of the house into the freezing cold. She didn't say anything else and went inside. Ryan and Connor stood at the gate for a long time, lowering their eyes. Several years passed. Tiffany got married to Jason's friend. Their families were very close now. Alice was raising Johnny and her little daughter, and Tiffany gave birth to a cute little boy, Mason. She was happy, just like everyone else who loved her. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.